So you're getting good grades for those practice essays on Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, or any other Shakespearean play, but not quite the grades you're hoping for, yearning for. Secretly, you want an A star, but it isn't quite happening for you. Stay tuned, you're watching Schofield on Shakespeare. There are no magic answers to getting an A star in a Shakespeare essay. It's also important to remember that exam boards will differ in exactly what they're looking for. However, in my experience, examiners are looking for a thorough, detailed exploration of the text through the question written in a sophisticated way. Indeed, sophisticated is the word specified in the AQA, Examining Broad Mark Scheme. Which leads me on to the obvious question: how can you make your writing on Shakespeare more sophisticated, and so increase the likelihood of you getting an A star? The introduction seems as good a place to start as any. Now, generally mark schemes do not award many marks for the introductory paragraph. However, they do set the tone for the rest of the essay, and the majority of examiners will already be thinking about what grade the essay may achieve based on how well the introduction is written. So, they are worth spending time on getting right. So my first tip is to ensure your introduction gives the impression you love the play, using a lavish range of adjectives. For example, compare these two extracts from real student essays. William Shakespeare was born in 1564 and wrote a wide range of plays, including his tragedy Macbeth. Clearly written, and a few useful facts in there, including the play genre. But if I'm marking this student's essay, am I likely to be awarded it an A star based on this introduction? No. How about this one? The extraordinary, world-renowned playwright William Shakespeare was born in 1564 and wrote a huge range of plays, including the bloody, yet thought-provoking, disturbing, yet utterly compelling tragedy Macbeth. Adjectives such as extraordinary, thought-provoking and compelling make this introduction far more interesting, and displaying such enthusiasm is likely to put the examiner faced with a huge pile of essays to mark in a good mood, predisposing him or her to award a high mark at the end of the essay. Whatever the examining board, any essay that aspires to show a good understanding of Shakespeare needs to include plenty of quotations. But examiners get a bit tired of quotations being introduced in the same formulaic way. So my second tip is to vary the way you introduce short, precise quotations. For example, in one paragraph, you might use a lively verb at the start of the sentence, such as, Prospero cackles to Ferdinand, sea water shalt thou drink, thy food shall be thy fresh brook mussels. Alternatively, you might use a phrase such as shown in the adjective lines. Here's an example. Capulet gets increasingly enraged by Juliet's behaviour, as shown in the furious lines, we have a curse in having her. Another way of varying the way you introduce quotations is to use an anticipatory colon. Kent's reaction is revealing, colon. Be Kent unmannerly when Lear is mad. But your choice of quotation is also crucial for giving yourself the best possible chance of gaining that A star. Let's say you're writing an essay on Romeo and Juliet and focusing on Juliet's moods in Act 2, Scene 4. She's clearly feeling impatient and desperate to hear news of Romeo. A candidate destined for a B or a C might use the quotation, in half an hour she promised to return, to back up this point. But a candidate destined for greater things would deliberately choose a more complex quotation, which is initially harder to understand. The quotation, love's herald should be thoughts, which 10 times faster glide than the sun's beams, also shows Juliet's impatience. However, the choice of this quotation opens up the possibility of commenting on the personification of love, the concept of love having a messenger, as shown in the reference to heralds, and the impossibility of movement 10 times faster than the sun's beams. In short, your choice of quotation, and of course how well you analyse it, can either increase your chance of getting a higher grade or actively decrease it. Go for the complex quotations. They're worth the extra efforts. But arguably the most important aspect of an essay on Shakespeare is the quality of your language analysis. Aim to analyse your quotations in as much detail as possible, picking out language devices and exploring the effect of individual words that are no longer used so much. Let's go to King Lear for an example of this. In Act 3, the poor old man is out on the heath, driven to the edge of insanity by his own loss of power and resistance, the behaviour of his daughters. He cries impotently, "Rumble thy bellyful, spitfire, spouts rain, nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters." An A-star candidate is likely to pick out so much from this two-line quotation. The use of imperative verbs such as rumble and spit, showing his continued desire to issue orders, even though of course the weather is unlikely to take much notice. The best candidates will also identify the repeated use of exclamation marks, highlighting the former monarch's raised voice and terrible frustration. How about the metaphorical reference to the thunder having a belly? Or the crazed, completely illogical link between elements of nature and my daughters? Note the use of the determiner my to show his disbelief. There is so much to be picked out here in order to be ultimately successful. So small details, developed language analysis are important, but so is the flow and the variation of your writing. Examiners get tired of repetitive structures, paragraphs that begin in similar or near identical ways. So my fifth tip is to use complex sentence structures to make your essay engage and flow seamlessly. You can begin a paragraph with whereas to both refer back to a previous point and move your essay forwards. Here's an example from King Lear. Whereas Cordelia comes across as stubborn yet principled in the first scene of King Lear, her father seems incredibly hot-tempered as he roars in the ludicrous metaphor, "Come not between the dragon and his wrath." Or begin with a past participle clause, such as faced with. Let's go to Macbeth. Faced with a wife that is both calculated and devious, it is hardly surprising that Macbeth's limited resistance to the plot to kill Duncan quickly crumbles. He says resignedly, "I am settled and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat." Or you could begin a paragraph with a contrasting phrase such as unlike, this time the Tempest. Unlike his daughter, who seems almost ridiculously meek and mild, Prospero seeks to be controlling at every opportunity. When Ferdinand has the misfortune of falling in love with Miranda, Prospero rapidly uses his magic to devastating effect. Thy nerves are in their infancy and have no vigour in them. But surely context is everything with Shakespeare. The Elizabethan world is not like the 21st century world that we inhabit now. Shakespeare's world was a far more religious one, for example, with virtually all of society believing in a Christian God and being far more familiar with the Bible. Therefore, perceptive readers of Shakespeare in a modern world will be able to discern and comment on possible religious references. So my final tip is to make at least one biblical reference in your essay on Shakespeare, if possible, including an actual quotation from the great book. To Macbeth. It's Act 1, Scene 5, and Lady Macbeth is positively salivating at the thought of her husband becoming king and herself queen. She is quick to dish out advice about how Macbeth should behave in front of his royal guests, telling him to look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. Shakespearean audiences would have been all too familiar with the references in Genesis to Adam, Eve and the serpent. Indeed, the 3rd chapter of Genesis contains the line, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made." This cross-referencing between the Bible and Lady Macbeth's lines aids our understanding of the latter, as it shows the extent to which she is prepared to embrace evil. Just as she later calls on the spirits directly to fill her with evil, her order to metaphorically be a serpent shows she understands the the scale of the task in front of them. The serpent caused Adam and Eve to commit the original sin, causing them to lose both their beautiful home and their innocence. So killing Duncan in a cruel, heartless act of regicide is an evil act comparable to the world's first ever act of evil, at least according to Lady Macbeth's own words. In Romeo and Juliet, Capulet believes his daughter is dead and wails melodramatically, "Death is my son-in-law, death is my heir, my daughter he hath wedded." But perhaps this would not have seemed so melodramatic to an Elizabethan world, well used to the personification and vivid presence of death via the Bible, as seen in this famous quotation from Corinthians. "O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting?" As stated earlier, there are no magic answers in achieving an A star in a Shakespeare essay, although hard-working lessons, understanding the requirements of your particular exam board, and reading and rereading key sections of text will certainly help. But the 6 tips in this video will hopefully put you on the right path. Good luck.